Well, obviously, the expectations for 2014 are high, in particular after coming out of 2013, which was a disappointing campaign, certainly by Johns Hopkins standards and by our staff standards. So, going into 2014, there are a lot of new faces. There are a lot of similar faces that are back, but maybe greater roles and different roles. I think you'll see a much different Johns Hopkins team offensively. I think we've kind of tried to make a complete overhaul, one that we think is beneficial to our program, beneficial to the future of our program, and obviously in particular beneficial to our returning personnel. Defensively, I feel pretty strongly about who we are, what we are, and what we're all about. I think we've always known who we are there and been pretty darn successful there. But there's a lot of excitement in our locker room. There's a very different attitude. But to be quite frank with you, it's very easy to talk about those things after coming off a disappointing campaign. So the approach for us has been we really just we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to we don't want to relive the past. We don't want to rehash things. We know exactly what happened, and we're excited to move forward. And we don't want to talk about what we're going to do. We just need to go out and do it. I think we feel like the time to talk is over, and the time to be productive and do the job is here. Now that being said, we return, I think, a really strong group of leaders. Robbie Guida, who comes out of the 13 campaign on a pretty serious injury last year, showed me an awful lot in his efforts to get back and to try to contribute to last year's team. I showed a toughness that we really appreciated. So he's one of our captains. Mike Pellegrino, who that's a guy who's a heart of your team. When one of your hardest workers is one of your better players, I think that bodes well. And Mike is without a doubt one of our toughest kids, both mentally and physically, and is pretty talented. We think he's an underrated guy. Does a lot of the invisibles that we call the things that people just don't see. And then we have another guy, James Malm, who's really grown and developed. And if you asked me 3.5 years ago if James Malm would be a captain, and if you asked him the same question, I think we'd both say no. And I think it goes to the growth that he's experienced. So I like our leadership. I like their work ethic. I like their attitude. I like the way they've handled this group. They've made accountability a high priority in the classroom, off the field, and certainly throughout the fall and the winter workouts. So all that being said, I think you're as good as your leaders are, and I think we have a good group of captains there, along those lines, to help them along. I think we've got some really wonderful kids, guys like Greg Edmonds, Eric Schneider, who's going to be a fifth-year senior next year, so he's a redshirt junior for us now. Phil Castronova comes back from injury. So it's a senior class that's very hungry, very motivated, and is more concerned with doing, not talking. So I've liked that attitude. In regards to guys that'll help, in the offensive end, you look for Brandon Ben to take another step. He had a nice campaign last year, really stepped up and did a good job. Wells Stanwyck, we're looking for him to take that next step. We spent a lot of time this off season and this summer working on him turning the corner and pressing the corners a little bit more and creating a little bit more. And by doing so, trying to get some other guys involved. Ryan Brown's a guy that can move between the midfield and the attack. We like that. At the midfield, it's going to be very different. There are a lot of those household names that are gone, and the simple hope is that instead of having to defend 1, 2, or 3 guys, now you're going to have to defend all 6 guys, and that's been the approach. Bobby Benson's done a great job with those guys, but Robbie Guida is going to be a staple there. Holden Catone is a kid who had a really nice year, a little inconsistent last year, a kid from Calgary. Rex Sanders had a wonderful year last year. There's a guy that no one ever heard of, and he scores 14 goals and has three against Virginia down at the stadium. But again, a little inconsistent. So we've got some people and some pieces there that we think we can work with, in particular with what we're doing offensively and defensively. that's I think that'll be our strong point to start the season off with. And I would start in the goal with Eric Schneider. I've never coached a more enthusiastic kid. When we sent the guys home for the summer and we had graduated Pierce Bassett, who's been a pretty talented goalie, you say, well, what are we going to get next year? What are we going to be like in the goal? And there was never any question when they went home that Eric Schneider would do what he needed to do, work as hard as he needed to work to become that guy. And he has. And he's been a very good leader. He's kind of fit right in the mold in terms of communication, leading the defense, and we've been pleased with how he stopped the ball, or more importantly, saved the ball. But maybe equally as important is how quickly he's gotten the ball up and out. We think that's going to be a bit of a difference for us moving forward, is that we have a guy in the goal who may take a risk now and again, but the risk reward will be beneficial to us with his ability to save it and get it up and out. Then we return Jack Riley, who's 6'4", 220 pounds. He's as good an athlete as there is out there, and I think it's Jack's time to shine. I think it's his time to stand up and show what he's capable of. We've seen flashes of it, and we were really pleased with what we saw in fall practice. Jack did not participate in the fall scrimmages, but did participate throughout the fall in practice and all that, or for most of the fall. And we were really pleased with what we saw. He seems to have grown into that leadership role a little bit more now that Tucker Durkin and Chris Leitner are gone. I think there's a greater comfort level for him to be a little bit more vocal, to be a little bit more demanding, and he's capable of covering the ball. We feel very good about that. So you've got him. We've got another young man, Robbie Enright, who's kind of emerged. Robbie's a guy that can play inside, has played some on the perimeter, has gotten some starts in the past in big games against Maryland and some other schools. And then we've got two other guys that have really battled it out. One is a guy by the name of John Kelly, who, due to an injury last year to Tucker Durkin, on Wednesday we find out that Durkin can't play because of a concussion. And now all of a sudden you're looking at Garrett Thule on the other end of the field and no Tucker Durkin to cover him. And I think that's when we really found out who we are defensively. I think this group really realized, hey, we can do this. We can be good at this. And John Kelly stepped right in and did a fabulous job along with the other guys. So John Kelly has worked tremendously. He's in great shape. His footwork is drastically improved. His stick work has been good, so we've been pleased there. And then we have a young freshman we think is pretty talented, in Nick Fields. And he's a guy that I think what we were most pleased with was we learned in our fall scrimmage how fiercely competitive he is. So with that group, you've got some size, some strength, some athleticism, the ability to extend a little bit more. And then at the rope unit, you return Mike Pellegrino, who is the heart and soul of that group. Nicky Schuler as a second pole. James Malm was a starting short stick last year. Phil Castronova returns and not only gives us a lot defensively, but gives us a lot in the transition game. And just been amazed at how he's bounced back physically. I just haven't been around a lot of kids like him that are able to do what he's done. And then we've got a freshman, Joey Carlini, who's really done a great job. And with us holding Phil out, Joe got some really important minutes this fall and experience, and we feel great about what he's capable of. And then Derek Kihembo's another guy. So defensively, we feel very, very good about who we are and what we are and our ability to play a couple of different ways, to be quite honest with you.